It's an interesting discussion today.
We started the countdown.
And we are now 6:30.
Okay. Hi. Good evening, everyone. I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph.
And as usual, I am Terri-ann Joseph Rapid. Happy to be here.
And we have a very beautiful guest with us. It is Maxine King. Maxine is a wealth manager. And Maxine would be here discussing with us on the topic, defining a legacy at 50 plus. And you know, this is Connections 50 plus Wednesdays live.
Yes.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yes.
So Maxine, thanks so much for joining us.
Yes.
Tell me now, Maxine, we are talking about defining a legacy. How do you, when you talk about defining a legacy, how would you say you define legacy?
Jennifer, my view on legacy is a little bit out of the box, out of the ordinary, in that I look at legacy from the point of view of it being positive, and it can also be negative.
Okay.
I also think about it in terms of not just financial. You know, when you think legacy, you're thinking will, you're thinking the person died, you're thinking posthumous sharing of assets, the house, land, and cash and that kind of thing.
Yes.
Right? But I think your legacy is defined by you as you exist. Your stamp as you live. You know, the things you do, the things you say. When I think about legacy, I think about what do I want to be remembered for. I always tell my children, I say, in my eulogy, remember to say this, and remember to say that, because that is an integral part of who I think I am and what my legacy represents. So, legacy to me is not just financial, it is wide. And I was saying to the ladies earlier, you can also have negative legacy, because you can have
this is important.
A legacy of debt, a legacy of poverty, and a legacy
of mean-spiritedness.
Yes.
And lack of sharing and neighborliness.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. There are many. We were talking about this issue of what is a legacy. And Maxine, I really like the statement that you made. Your legacy is what it's a timestamp. It starts now. It's not just for afterlife. It goes on beyond. And what you do now, you are really putting the foundation stones and designing. It's like an architect building your house. What you are doing now is really shaping and forming that legacy. And Jennifer, some people think that legacy is not for them.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
and that's true, especially at 50 plus. Somehow at 50 plus, and Maxine, you mentioned it, thinking that legacy is just about money and property. And by the time they reach 50 and feel, well, I have not acquired any lump sum of money. I don't have my property still mortgaged. So I have no property to leave. And that thought of defining a legacy, creating a legacy, just stops immediately. So Maxine, tell us. And let's start, I know, and this, I want to come back to that negative legacy. But before I come back to the negative legacy and the non-financial legacy, at 50 plus, for those who will say to you, I have no money to leave legacy for anybody, what would you say to them?
Well, if you're looking at legacy in financial terms, I would say it's never too late to start putting aside something for, what we would say is like a rainy day, or even putting aside something for children, if we have children, or grandchildren, if we have children, or even siblings. It is never too late to start putting aside something. What it means is a certain kind of sacrifice and discipline, and, less consumerism and that kind of thing, maybe pooling of things with friends and family, the way in which you spend, the way in which you buy. Yes, pooling.
Is a pool.
Yes.
Getting together.
Yes.
With the cousin and the sister and the brother.
Yes.
And we fighting all the time.
That's okay, we can still try.
Because I think one of the major stumbling blocks to, you know, you look at different groups and you say there's legacy, there's this leaving and there's that leaving. There is a level of cooperation and sacrifice, a conscious decision that those after must start off a little better than those that were before.
Yes.
And therefore, there is the recognition of that. But you find so many people, I don't know if they scrun too much or life was too hard, that when the good times start, you know, they try to,
everything is for them.
And overdo.
Selfishness.
Yes.
You know, and we don't think at all about what's next. And not even what's next, meaning the afterlife, stage of life. Because we were talking about the crisis that happens when you're working and things going nice. The figures in the 6 figures a year and it's high sixes, and you're traveling and the expense account and the cars and life going good. And you know, you were giving us some conversations about how difficult it is for persons at the peak of their legacy creation, their prime, preparing for that post. You know, what can we say to people to have them be more conscious about that need to set aside, sacrifice, pool, cooperate?
You mean at the point when they're just about to,
or even before,
exit
before the last 10 years, 50 plus?
You know, I say we're assuming that people are working in environments where they have like pensions and pension plans and things like that.
I would say not necessarily.
Necessarily.
I'm just thinking of the thought pattern.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I have a thing that I say to my clients, which is pay yourself first. When you get paid, pay yourself first. But assume that you can define how much ever you want to put aside of part of your salary, whether it's 10%, whatever. That's for you to determine. But always put aside something first, even before you start to deal with the food bill and this bill and that bill. Think like that never existed. I think that is a habit that we need to develop, that we need to pass on to our families, right? Our children, our siblings, our friends. I think it's a good practice because what it does is encourage a kind of discipline.
Why don't we do it? Because we hear that's not what you said is not unknown.
Right.
Why don't we do it?
Perhaps it has to do with the manner in which we were socialized,
Maxine,
cultural norms.
Yes, but you know, and as you said that, you mentioned to start small and think of the family and what you like for them. But Maxine, that person who created the legacy, in doing that, I have found many times do not discuss what they are doing. So for instance, you may be, let me just use me. I may be saving and thinking, okay, I am saving because I want to help maybe my son or my daughter to start a business, do property or something. And I just busy saving, but not bringing them in to the discussion or letting them know what I'm doing, because I may be afraid that if I tell them and I fall short, it's going to be a disappointment or look bad on me. So you're not bringing them in. How important it is when you're creating a legacy to bring the persons who are involved, who you want to be part of this legacy and inherit that. How important it is to bring them in.
I think it's extremely important for them to understand the kind of discipline, the kind of sacrifice that and even what you're doing. And you know, just now I refer to cultural norms, and and I want to make the point. Let's say, for instance, last week you were talking about Christmas and whatnot. And you know, Christmas is the time of gift giving, right?
Yes.
But when you look at what we give as gifts, generally speaking, especially this in this season, we give material things a lot of times. We give, whether it be clothing, whether it be perfume, whether
Bicycle,
it be
shoes.
bicycle, you know.
Mhm.
How about if we start giving gifts of investment certificates, let's say, and we continue that every year? Don't you think those kinds of things would now introduce a behavior, a pattern
Mhm.
that moves away from giving physical things, that helps you along the way to, so that when you pass on, when they get things from you, they would have been introduced to a new concept of saving, of investing.
Mhm.
I recall my neighbor from very early. We used to invest and small amounts. I'm not saying any big amount, but small amounts. And she would invest like buy a bit of bonds and shares
Mhm.
and have it there and have her son fund. And when she died fairly early, as soon as she
Wow.
retired.
Oh dear.
But all along, she used to have me as a neighbor discussing, the financial aspect. And I remember him coming to me and say, Auntie, Mommy has said, you see these shares? I am to hold on to them because they are
Mhm.
long-term investments and
Yes.
only in an emergency. And listen to me.
Enjoy the
He
dividend. Not
knew that.
Yes.
He didn't just think immediately, oh, I have money. I am
Yes.
just going and spending.
Yes.
So that is very important. And Maxine, before we, keep watching time.
Yes.
I really want to hear more about that negative legacy.
Legacy. Yes. And how it ruins the next generation.
Well, I want to start with this business about debt,
Mm-hmm.
because there are some persons who they live their lives just borrowing, not just borrowing at, let's say, established financial institutions, but borrowing. Yeah, they'll call the sister to ask a loan, they'll call the brother, they'll ask the neighbor, they will ask the friend, and it's just borrowing. And as they're borrowing, they just getting deeper and deeper into this debt, and like they just can't crawl out of it, right? And I'm saying that within our society, we do in fact have a legacy of not just debt, but poverty. And and part of the poverty also has to do with the fact that people did not, they borrowed a lot too, and borrowed it for the wrong purposes.
Borrow to consume.
Borrow to consume as distinct from borrowing for productive purposes.
Like education.
Right? Exactly.
Like reinforce the home.
Right. For even small businesses.
Yes.
Right? Sustaining yourself in that kind of way instead of being a consumer all of the time. So also, I want to tie that into the idea of generational wealth. You hear people talking a lot about generational wealth now, all of a sudden. And generational wealth is associated with, affluence, people who always had money, people who born into money, people who inherit. But I am saying that generational wealth must start and can start even in communities where there is poverty, where there's a lot of debt, where there's a lot of
that's interesting.
How?
Yeah.
How? What's the strategy?
I think one of the strategies is that you have to educate and you have to bring the awareness that when you die, you are going to, if you don't do something differently, you are just going to perpetuate maybe a life of I don't want crime.
Addiction.
Not to say crime, but
crime.
But it's real. Addiction. Even in terms of, and I mean, this might be a soft one, but in terms of children, making children. Sometimes you look at families
and those who don't want to work.
Well, that
don't
too.
See the need
to work. Yes.
I was saying just now, and I come back to my tradition. I was listening to Mass. I'm Roman Catholic, everybody knows that, and I listen to my daily masses. And there is a book in one of the readings. I will check it and I will come back and tell you all next week.
Mm-hmm.
It says that those who don't work should not eat.
Mm.
They should not eat.
And when we talk about that legacy, so if you in a family that where the adults don't work, don't see the need to go out to work, And
And
we
Jen,
look
let's be
at,
clear. Work does not mean go to a job.
yeah,
Work means do something
do something
productive,
to bring
make
in,
something.
yeah, to
Yes.
bring in an
Bring in
income.
income. Or
Yes.
work might also might mean help in the home.
Yes.
Help take care of an elderly
Exactly.
relative.
You know,
Help.
Exactly.
so that because when you said the negative legacy,
Mhm.
I never really thought of negative legacy, but I see how critical that is because that stunts growth, stunts any sort of creation of wealth. Now, Maxine, we spoke on the financial a bit. What about non-financial? Because you mentioned very early, you started by saying that it's not all about financial.
Mhm.
Well, what are some of the non-financial legacies we
I
can?
would say your kindness, your work ethic, the everyday things that we do that people remember us
Let's say that
for.
first one again,
Right?
kindness.
And we said about that it's Christmas time.
The
Eh?
empathy,
Yeah.
the
That-
sharing of your knowledge and your experience, all of those things contributing to your legacy. When you leave, those are the things that people remember you for. I remember she taught me how to do this and that. That's part
Yes.
of your legacy.
Exactly, the impact you have on people, the
Yes.
mark you leave on people.
Yes.
And they say there's a saying, people don't remember what you did, they remember how you made them feel.
Mhm.
Yes.
Were you kind? And I
Mhm.
think part of this race for Christmas, change the curtains, change this, change that. It's yes, and we give the
Yes,
the
we
disclaimer.
understand. We understand.
Listen, come here 10th of December, lights flashing, lights flashing. And I'm going to bring a smaller ham this year. I'm not going to do a hototo ham, but we in Christmas.
But we build in.
again,
We that.
think
time.
about how do we bring our children in and what are we doing that they are seeing? Are they seeing us being kind? Are they seeing us caring more about what other people think of us and the things we have?
Yes.
Or how we treat people, because that's so important to legacy.
Yes.
I agree. Habits and values are critical with
I
legacies.
think so.
And I must refer here to my dad, who was very much, you say, he don't have money, but what he has is that experience and that knowledge, knowing that with education you can lift yourself and create, well, in his thing was property,
Yes.
that wealth creation.
Yeah.
So what he can pass on is that discipline, for you to be disciplined, for you to know that you need to go to the higher level of education in order for you to acquire that level job, earn that income, whether you're creating your own business, to start to acquire that wealth. So in starting with a non-financial legacy, in his case, which was education, it also helped the next generation build on it and create now a financial legacy.
And Maxine, would you agree? Many people look today and they look at the well-to-do, and they look at where people are now, and they don't check the backstory.
No, they don't.
Oh, yeah.
Because much of the people, most everyone of the persons that we look at as wealthy and having legacy, and you believe, I want to be like them and I want to start like them. The thing started 3 or 4 generations
Yes.
ago.
Oh, yes.
And what they did was to make sure that the family, right, was involved in the business or whatever it is.
And that
the
brings us to
venture was.
how do we sustain and protect legacy? Even if we start now, even if we have nothing, we have nothing. All we have is good hearts, hands, minds. How do we say we can start? Yeah, we have to sacrifice. We can't consume everything. We have to put aside some. Take a 10%. How do we sustain and protect?
I think again it comes down to involving at large.
Not being afraid to let
Not
them
being
know you're
afraid to
suffering
let them know
and you're
your
sacrificing.
story, right? How
Yeah.
much you have to sacrifice, the kind of discipline that was
Mm-hmm.
involved. Because I think when you do that, what you do is now introduce an appreciation for why it is important to continue after you pass on.
You know, I am thinking that we talk about our oral traditions and our storytelling. And I don't know if it's the digital age. I think it was before the digital age. Probably TV started. But when you didn't have these distractions, you sat down in the evening and you had to talk to one another. And you heard about how was the day and what was going on.
Yeah.
And therefore, children understood. They probably heard mommy and daddy talking about what they had to cut to get this. And if you have books to get, you have to cut to do this. And if somebody had a special bazaar to go to. Because I remember long ago, Christmas time, you got a pair of shoes, a pajama, and an outfit. And that's how your clothes gather. You only got new things for Christmas.
Yeah, but you know, agree.
Well, you're lucky you were getting that every Christmas.
And then everybody got a toy, and there was a big planet eating for it.
And agree now. And so in different times,
Yes.
and we are here at the stage of 50 plus,
Yes.
where we may have already created certain, let's say, bad habits, and may have spoiled some of the children.
We spoil them. Yeah, we spoil them.
We can still at this stage
Yes.
start the conversation, because I think starting that, I not just think, I believe that with starting that conversation, discussing legacy, understanding that it is not just about the money and the property, which is great to have, but you have to start some way. And if you start with that positive mindset, with that discussion and laying the cards on the table as to this is where we are at as a family, and this is what I would like to see, I would like you all to accomplish, and this is how I would be helping you accomplish. I think that will go a long way.
And Jennifer, what would you, and I tap into your skills now as a personal coach, all of the fear and insecurity of a parent to admit to the children or the sister or whoever it is, and you would have seen this too, that it's really not been as easy as I've made it look. You know, what can we say to encourage them that that deception is not necessary? First,
But don't you think the children see through that? Deception, sorry, Jen.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah.
Don't you think the children see through that? But because we don't involve them, well,
They let
like
you
they leave you, you leave you.
So the message is you're fooling nobody.
I know, but Maxine, even though we talk about the children, but let's go back a bit to us, even as adults, as 50 plus. Many of us in situations where the home still live in that, we used to say false pride.
Yes.
Still at this stage, and I'm going back because it's the Christmas season and
Yes.
spending,
Yes.
still want to prove to our friends and neighbors
Just changing it in every
that we are not as scranton for the Trinidadians, as scranton as we really are.
vocabulary.
And the same, and when we set that example, when we go about
Yes.
shopping and spending and
Money we don't
acting
have, the credit
as
card.
if we have, what message are we sending them?
To the children.
To the children and to our peers? Because if you see, like, you tend to hang with people who have similar minds, and if your whole group, if your those around you, your friends, also think the same, then it's a whole, again, as you said, that legacy we all passing on there. That is where you call the negative legacy. So we really, I would look at us at 50 plus now to set that example, because the other fear, and I thought of it when you said negative legacy, you hear the stories that those who have really saved, sacrificed, and left
Yes.
behind, whether it's a house, whether
Also
it's
the
your
bank
car,
account.
actually whatever they left that have some work in it,
What
it
happens
is
to
sold without much thought
thought,
behind
and you
it,
must say about that.
and the
Yeah.
money is divided, and everybody have a great time.
Yes.
No appreciation. And for me, that is because we did not have that conversation. And before you let me just make one point quickly that came to me. And we talked earlier, because our followers include men and women. I have found too, traditionally, the belief was the men are the ones to leave this legacy.
Yes.
Not the woman. The woman could go along and you die, or
They
you
will
get
inherit.
old,
Because the man will die
and you
first.
don't have that responsibility. But you depending on the responsibilities on the man to do it. What's your view on that?
Well, I think outside of the box, one, and two,
Yeah.
I know I have been an independent person since I know myself, and I think it's because I grew up with a single mother.
Okay.
Right? So, and now my age showing up now because I can't remember the exact question you asked me there.
The woman
No,
being
talking about
responsible
and
for the legacy.
yes, and not
Okay.
dependent on the men to
Right.
leave
So
the
I
legacy.
don't think like that.
Okay.
Right? And interestingly enough, well, people who socialize with each other have something in common. Most of my friends don't think like that.
Great.
They don't think like that.
And that's why we have you
Yes.
sitting here, right?
But I want to raise one point before we get to Maxine, and it came up when you talked about that negative legacy. One thing I need, we develop our cultures, and when we don't prepare for the future, we're stealing from our legacy.
Yes.
When we don't put aside, we're stealing. And I'm going to be blunt. We're being a criminal. We are showing and demonstrating that you don't have to think about tomorrow. So when tomorrow comes and I don't have, what am I to do? So we have to wonder sometimes if the lack of appreciation for work and sacrifice, it's almost criminal. And I, it just occurred to me that we have to take this legacy stuff very seriously.
And
Very
as
seriously.
a conversation around the table.
Yes. But we are now at 6:58.
So Maxine, it's all to you now.
And let me say one thing, and we have full disclosure here. I've known Maxine for a long, long while, and Maxine is responsible for managing my legacy. Okay, a part of my financial legacy. So, Maxine, who is Maxine King during the day?
Yes, I'm glad you put in that part. During the day, on Saturdays and Sundays as well, Maxine is the head of wealth management at First Line Securities Unit. That's who Maxine is.
Good. So you guard and protect our legacies, our financial legacies.
Yes, I try my best.
And you do a good job. So if someone wanted to talk to you more, because I think you've given such wonderful insights here, how can they contact you?
They can contact me at 684-6918. That is my mobile number. And also in the office, 610-5464, which is my office number at Shagonis.
Fantastic.
And Maxine, so I just love this chart on the legacy and defining a legacy, and the fact that a legacy is not just financial. So my advice to our followers is that please look at defining legacy. Define your
A legacy is
legacy
for everyone.
because yes, and that is important.
Everyone.
You know, and it's not for the man alone in the family. It's not for the mother alone. It's for everyone to get together also and have that discussion.
Generational wealth has to be
it is
created
about,
through legacy
it is about
building.
that. So at this stage, Terri-ann,
Yes.
again, we thank our special guest,
Thank you very
Maxine.
much for having
We
me.
thank
I hope you
all.
had fun.
We thank all those who have been
Yes.
following us, all those who with us online,
We're seeing
and
lots
I,
of likes and
yes,
hearts.
and I know all those who gonna be coming online
Yes.
as soon as we click off,
Yes, they're there.
they go on and you look at replay. We really do appreciate.
But Christmas
know?
is coming, and the point
Yes.
we're making at 50 plus is that it's a beautiful time. It's a
Mhm.
sharing time,
Oh yes,
but it's a time where we give gifts not only to our families, we give gifts to ourselves. Let us really think carefully at Christmas. We got a great gift through Christ,
yeah.
and we have to continue building that gift.
Oh yes,
You know, and it's not last week we talked about the budget, and this week it's the legacy moving forward.
So do a Christmas legacy.
Yes.
All right, so
And
for
it's
now,
7:01. So
for now we're saying bye.
bye. Until next week.
Okay.
Bye.